Hello, this is Dr. Jacqueline with DTP Leadership Group. You've tuned in to Hot Topic Bold Talk, the podcast where we dive into everything that matters today. Join me as we explore the hottest trends and pressing issues with conversations that sizzle and perspectives that heat up. This is Hot Topic Bold Talk, since every chat has something cooking. Let's dive in to today's discussion. Hello, my name is Dr. Jacqueline, and I'm with DTP Leadership Group. And this is Hot Topic Bold Talk. On podcast 85 asks you a question to consider. Who honors the rule of law, and who has disdained the rule of law? I want to start with an article from The Atlantic on June 11th, 2024 at 12:56 p.m. Eastern Standard Time by David A. Graham. It's entitled, "The President's Son is Found Guilty." He says, and he repeats it again in the article, "The case is personal and a family tragedy, but it also is a demonstration of the strength of the rule of law." He continues and says the federal case against Hunter Biden was not ultimately a particularly complex one. Prosecutors said that he had lied about his drug use when filing out a form to buy a gun. The evidence backed up the claims, and a jury took less than a full day to deliberate before returning a verdict of guilty on 3 felonies. Here are more comments from the article that are very important for you to hear. The Hunter Biden case is a personal and family tragedy, but like the recent felony conviction of Donald Trump, it is also a demonstration of the strength of the rule of law. One test of the American justice system is that a former president can be tried and convicted. A second is that the son of a sitting president can be tried and convicted without political interference. The cases against Trump and Hunter Biden have a couple of major similarities. As it happens, critics of both saw the decision by the prosecutors to bring charges as politically motivated. As I wrote after the Trump verdict, it's reasonable to believe that politics were at play. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Briggs is an elected official in a Trump skeptical jurisdiction, but it is wrong to conclude that this negates the case. He's saying it's wrong to conclude that because it's in this jurisdiction that it negates the case. Similarly, Hunter Biden might well not have faced any charges at all if he were not the son of a president. Trey Gowdy, a former federal prosecutor and a Republican member of the Congress, recently argued on Fox News the case was dubious and wouldn't have been brought if this were not Hunter Jones or Hunter Smith. Gowdy noted that if that cases of prosecuting drug users for lying on forms, they are very extremely rare. The problem is that once the case was brought, Hunter Biden didn't have much other defense to offer. As with Trump, few of Biden's champions were prepared to argue that Hunter was innocent. Biden's case went to trial only after an attempt at a plea deal, and he opted to fight the charges. Trump declined to argue to a jury that he had committed misdemeanors rather than felonies, preferring to take the risk of a felony conviction. He made that decision. The similarities between the cases are limited, though. As Kate Shaw noted in these papers 1 year ago, Trump has responded to being charged and now convicted with an outright attack on the judiciary system's basic integrity. Trump has obviously continually attacked our justice system, which is the basic part of integrity of our country. President Joe Biden, by contrast, has remained supportive of his son, but defended the process and refused to intervene. He said last week, and that's from this article, that he would not pardon Hunter if he were convicted. And in his statement today, he said, "I will accept the outcome of this case and will continue to respect the judicial process as Hunter considers an appeal. Jill and I will always be there for Hunter and the rest of our family with our love and support." Moreover, Hunter Biden's conviction shows the emptiness of Republican accusations that Joe Biden is weaponizing the Justice Department against his enemies. That's the rationale for all the things Trump says he's going to do with the Justice Department, and he's going to attack all his enemies. So again, hear this. Moreover, Hunter Biden's conviction shows the emptiness of Republican accusations that Joe Biden is weaponizing the Justice Department against his enemies. Not only did the federal prosecutors charge and convict the president's son, they also currently are trying Senator Bob Menendez, a New Jersey Democrat, for corruption, and have brought charges against Representative Henry Cuellar, a Texas Democrat. Meanwhile, Trump and his allies continue to promise that he will actually use the justice system to get even with his political appointees, or opposition, I guess you would say also too. The system in which the rule of law is strong and valued does not mean every citizen agrees with every verdict or that every prosecution is righteous. But it does mean one in which due process exists and no one is above the law, no matter what his political connections. But there's no question in my mind, and needs to be none in yours, that Donald Trump will do anything to destroy the foundation of our country, which is our democracy and also the rule of law, since he does not respect it at all. The Trump mega Republicans are so far from the Republican Party that stood for many years for law and order. I've given many resources that are written by conservatives and liberals that constantly show the disdain that Trump and his supporters show for the rule of law. It's appalling to me that they are members of Congress and yet are incapable of letting go of the need to be loyal to Trump. They're not serving their country, they're serving Trump. Now, I want to give you further evidence of what Trump and the mega Republicans are doing about the rejection of the rule of law. And then other things that they're refusing to take responsibility for, even though they're supposed to be representatives in from various parts of our country. The Week magazine on May 31st, 2024, in the short article by the New Republic writer Greg Sargent, titled "Proving Their Loyalty to Their Leader," he says, "We see the clear disrespect for the rule of law and their ability to serve our country due to their inability to see the truth about who Trump is." Sargent is more clear and even shorter in his article in saying these statements. With Trump prohibited by gag order from attacking people involved in the case, Republicans gleefully did his dirty work for him. Scott and Vance echoed Trump's earlier attacks on Judge Juan Merchan because his daughter fundraised for Democrats, while several Republicans disputed witness Michael Cohen's testimony. In today's GOP, fealty to Trump is more important than anything. It's more important than the court system, the norms of our country that we've lived by for so many years, the decency we have in our country, and the democracy itself. If Trump refuses to accept a loss in the 2020 election, or if he wins and demands unjustified prosecution of his enemies, does anyone doubt that the lapdog Republican officials will eagerly go along with it? Trump's interview, printed in the Time magazine on May 27, 2024, which was a repeat of the article I've already commented on in another podcast by Eric Codelessa, who is from Palm Beach, Florida. He said, if Trump wins in this exclusive interview with Time, Donald Trump lays out a second-term agenda that would reshape America and its role in the world. It is a repeat of every threat he's made, and all of you need to read the detail and then compare it to Joe Biden's interview by Massimo Calabresi in Time magazine in their 6/24/24 edition, which will be coming out if he wins. She authors a shorter paper on the interview with Biden, which was updated on June 5th, 2024 at 4:27 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And she entitles it, "We Are the World Power, How Joe Biden Leads." After the 90-minute interview, you will see the amazing diplomatic actions that President Biden has taken to lead our country and enhance our connections with the rest of the world. Biden recounts these memories over the course of a 90-minute interview. As Calabresi says, at 82, he holds fast to a vision that has reigned since World War II, in which a rich and powerful America leads an alliance of democracy to safeguard the globe from tyranny. Here is more on the article. On June 6, Biden traveled to Normandy, France, to memorialize an event as to serve for 8 decades as a focal point of his vision and the vision we've had in our country for years. He is the last American president who was alive on that day in 1944, when 73,000 American troops led the largest amphibian invasion in human history, accelerating Nazi Germany's defeat and Europe's liberation. For generations, D-Day has been a herald anniversary. The president says, commensurating it as much about the future of our country as the past. We're playing that role even more, Biden says. We are the world power, supporting democracies all over the world. The voters face, you're one of the voters, so am I, face a clear choice that this author says in November. Biden calls America's democracy values the grounding wire of a global power and its allies as our greatest assets. Donald Trump called for withdrawing American forces in Europe and Asia, and has promised, most recently in his April 12th interview with Time, to cut loose even our closest allies if they don't do exactly what he tells them to do. There is a clear message in the hundreds of articles I've been reading that you will see what Trump wants, whether you are an individual, group, state, or country, because he will persecute you and punish you for not being loyal. to him. That is the very different approach to Biden, who has respect for the diversity of the United States, and he's very clear that Putin, who Trump admires, is a danger to Europe and our allies. We cannot be foolish enough to think that we will not receive the consequences in the U.S. if Putin takes over the Ukraine and then moves on other countries in Europe. I will be developing another podcast on the perception of our European allies and how they see the great threat to the world if Trump ever is elected to office again. What I do not think most Americans understand is the game Trump and MAGA Republicans are playing with all their accusations and lies about the 2020 election. Is their way of saying they're going to save the country by all the things they're threatening and all the things they're saying. Because they think they are saving the country from various things that happened, he thinks, in the 2020 election. The week, May 2nd, 2024, an article was developed by E.J. Dion Jr. from the Washington Post, which presents in a short article, a curious way to save democracy, he says, what the Republicans are trying to do. These are the facts that he presents. In a recent poll, 7 out of 10 Americans agree that democracy is currently under threat. Drill down a bit more, and what concerns Republicans, and that's it's become too easy to cast ballots, with 82% of them saying they're worried about widespread voter fraud. Among Democrats, 76% are concerned about laws and practices that Republicans-run states have adopted to make it harder to vote. To pander to the Trump's right, House Speaker Mike Johnson recently called for federal legislation requiring proof of citizenship from every voter. But it's already illegal for non-citizens to vote, and there is no evidence. He says there is no evidence, zippo, that fraud is a problem in our system. Multiple studies by the Brennan Center for Justice found that the actual voter fraud rate falls somewhere between 0.0003 and 0.0025%. That's nothing. In 2020, the expansion of early and mail balloting produced a record turnout, with Trump getting 11.2 million more votes than he had 4 years earlier. But Biden got 7 million more votes than Trump. The Republican solution makes sure that fewer people vote. And that's their purpose. So ask yourself, is the restriction of voting a democratic action? Or is it a way for Republicans to win and prevent the will of the people to be heard in November? So to conclude this podcast, there is way too much evidence of the devastating actions that Trump would take that will destroy the rule of law and use the military to assault his rivals. Here's a comment from a Supreme Court Justice, Sonia Sotomayor, since she is warning us all that Trump cannot be given immunity from prosecution by the Supreme Court of the United States. I've already presented to you the many military leaders that have provided a document to say that it is a threat to our nation to allow him to have immunity. Here is Justice Sotomayor comment about Trump. If the president decides that his rival is a corrupt person and he orders the military to assassinate him, is that within his official acts for which he can be given immunity? She goes on to say, he's not doing these acts in furtherance of an official responsibility. He's doing it for his own personal gain. And what we need to realize is that Justice Sotomayor knows Trump didn't cause January 6th because it was an official act of office. It was his desperate attempt to overthrow the 2020 election and hold on to power. Be very clear. If Trump's favorite justices save him again, this could set a devastating precedent, which we have been warned about by military leaders from both parties. Be assured that the Supreme Court is inching close to giving Trump full immunity, because he set up the court to by his appointments to have an overinvestment, and we know there are two judges that should never be on the court at all. So that is the reason Sotomayor is speaking out. I am asking you to stand with Sotomayor. You can write to Elect Democrat Women, and their email is info@electdemocraticwomen.org. Again, I'm encouraging you to support Sotomayor and give support to her by writing an email to info@electdemocraticwomen.org to support her. Please know that there's tremendous efforts on my part to read many resources every week and to see what I can glean and make it a lot simpler for you to know what's going on so you can make the best decision that you think you need to do. Thank you for listening. There you have it. Another episode of Hot Topic Bold Talk is in the books. We journeyed through today's discussion, uncovering diverse perspectives and shedding light on a very critical matter. A massive thanks to all of you that are my listeners. I really appreciate you, and I'm so glad you're a part of this adventure. Feel free to drop your views in the polls and the Q&A section. It's really important for me to hear from you and know how you feel or what you think about my podcast. Gear up for more intriguing discussions in our next episode. Until then, stay connected, stay engaged, and let's keep those conversations buzzing. Thank you.